Ôi Tieu Nu ơi, mình nó có người ấy con. Có chuyện gì ấy mẹ? Hình như có ai đây không? Chắc không phải đâu mẹ. Chắc mẹ nhìn nhầm đấy. Nhưng mà ôi cướp, 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 ôi! Ôi, cướp, cướp, ôi, ôi, trộm rồi! Ôi, trộm rồi! Cướp, ôi, ôi, trộm rồi! Ôi, trộm rồi! Cướp, cướp, trộm rồi! Đừng lại! Cướp, đừng lại đâu! Cướp, 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 đừng lại! Cướp, đừng lại!
At 4:21 p.m. plus 07 on Tuesday, May 20th, 2025, the sun dipped low over a tranquil rural village in Yanbai, its golden rays filtering through the dense bamboo groves and casting long shadows across the rice paddies surrounding Mrs. Hung's modest home. The air carried the faint scent of wet earth and the distant clucking of chickens, a familiar rhythm of village life. Hung sat on a weathered wooden bench in the courtyard, her hands trembling as she clutched a worn velvet pouch filled with gold necklaces and earrings, her dowry from a lifetime ago, a gift from her parents on her wedding day. Her heart ached as she replayed the doctor's somber words in her mind. Tieu Nu needs a cornea transplant, and the cost is astronomical. Tears welled in her eyes as she murmured, "My sweet girl, her eyes are failing because she gave blood for my. I can't let her go blind." She gazed at the fields where Tieu Nu once tended vegetables, her love for the land now threatened by her worsening sight. Her husband, Mr. Tien, a dedicated commune official, trudged into the yard, his uniform streaked with dust from a long day of administrative work. He paused, wiping sweat from his brow, and noticed her distress. "Hung, why are you sitting here alone, sighing so deeply? What's troubling you?" he asked, his voice laced with concern. She looked up, her eyes brimming with tears. "It's Tieu Nu. I need to talk to you about something serious." He sat beside her, brushing dirt from his hands. "What's happened? Is she all right?" Hung's voice quivered as she began. "After she donated blood for my surgery, she collapsed from anemia and fell. Thank goodness Truong found her and rushed her to the hospital. I only learned about it when his mother called me." Tana's face tightened. "Why didn't she tell us? When did this start?" Hung sighed, her hands tightening around the pouch. "She didn't want me to worry, so she kept it hidden. I rushed to the hospital without even telling you. She'd already been discharged by then." Tan nodded slowly. "I see, but how is she now? Has she improved?" Hung's voice broke. "She's a little better since coming home, but the doctor warned her sight could fade completely without a cornea donor. I'm terrified for her future." Tan frowned, running a hand through his hair. "This is serious. What can we do to help her?" Hung opened the pouch, revealing the glint of gold, her tone resolute. "The doctor said a transplant could save her eyes, but it's costly. I want to sell this jewelry to pay for it, every piece if I must." Tan stared at the treasures, his voice soft. "That's your dowry, Hung. Your parents gave it to us when we married. Are you absolutely sure about this?" Hung nodded, her gaze steady. "I'd give up everything if it means Tieu Nu can see again. I just hope it's enough to cover the surgery." Tien glanced at the gold, his mind racing. We've been saving some money for Mai's education. Do you think this will be sufficient? Hung's voice softened. I'm not certain, but it might be a start. Even if it's not, I'll find a way, borrow, work hard or anything. I don't want Tieu Nu to struggle like Due does, blind and dependent. Tien placed a comforting hand on her shoulder, his tone gentle. I agree, we should do this for her. But it's hard to let go. This gold carries memories of your family. Hung looked at him, her eyes pleading. Do you regret it? I know it's precious, a link to my past, but her future matters more. Tien shook his head. Of course I feel a pang of regret, but our daughter's health comes first. Sell the gold and we'll figure out the rest. We'll keep Mai's fund intact. We can manage somehow. Hung managed a faint smile, her resolve strengthening. Thank you. I'll go to the gold shop now and get this done. Tien nodded, his tone firm. Be careful on the road. There are thieves lurking these days. Take the back path through the fields and stay alert. She stood, clutching the pouch tightly. I will. Once I have the money, I'll head straight to Tieu Nu. As she prepared to leave, the sound of a motorbike echoed from the village path, a reminder of the busy life beyond their quiet home. Tien watched her go, then returned to the commune office, where his colleague Tien was sorting through a pile of documents. Tien, have you finished the dossier I gave you yesterday? Tien asked, glancing up. Tien replied, Yes, it's ready. I've included all the updates from Decree number 8. Tien handed over the papers. Good. It's a new policy from the government. We need to inform the villagers. Should we call a meeting? Tien nodded. For now, spread the word among the people. If they're confused, we'll hold a meeting later. But today's Valentine's Day. Let's tighten security from 6 p.m. onward. The youth might cause trouble buying flowers or drinking. Tien agreed. I'll coordinate with the team and set up extra patrols. We'll keep the village safe. Tien added, make sure the content is clear. Highlight the key changes in the decree. This is important for everyone. Tien nodded. I'll go over it again and start informing the households. Should we prepare a notice board update too? Tien thought for a moment. Yes, that's a good idea. Post it near the market where people gather. And keep an eye on the younger ones. Last year's Valentine's Day got a bit rowdy. Tien smiled. I remember. I'll make sure we're ready this time. Anything else? Tien shook his head. Just stay on top of it. The new year brings extra work, but this policy is our priority. As Tien gathered his notes, Tien's thoughts drifted back to Hung, hoping her journey would be safe. The sun began its descent at 4:21 p.m. plus 07 on Tuesday, May 20th, 2025, casting long shadows over the winding roads of Yanbai as Mrs. Hung approached a small gold shop near a lively market, the air thick with the aroma of oranges and the hum of vendors haggling. She stepped inside, the bell above the door jingling softly, her heart pounding with a mix of hope and anxiety. She approached the counter, her voice steady. I'd like to sell this gold one tael, including these necklaces and earrings. The shopkeeper, a wiry man with a sly grin, adjusted his glasses and examined the jewelry, his fingers lingering on the pieces. Let me check. Yes, one tael, he said, his tone deceptively warm. This will fetch about 100 million VND. Hung's face brightened. That much? Good, I'll sell it all. He nodded. Wait here. I'll get the cash from the back. She sat on a rickety stool, clutching her bag, oblivious to the danger brewing in the shadows. The shopkeeper slipped into a back room, his smile vanishing as he dialed a number, his voice low. It's me. A woman just sold one tail, 100 million in cash. She's wearing a brown sun protective jacket. Set up an ambush near the pass. A gruff voice replied. Perfect. We'll stage a fake accident. She'll stop to help and we'll take the money. Move fast. The shopkeeper smirked. She's leaving soon. Don't mess this up. He returned to Hung, handing her a thick envelope. Here's 100 million. Count it to be sure. She counted the bills, her voice grateful. It's all here. Thank you, I'll go now. He waved. Safe travels. His eyes tracking her as she exited, the market's noise fading into the distance. Hung stepped onto a quiet road lined with bamboo groves, the weight of the cash in her bag a small comfort against her fears. Meanwhile, the shopkeeper's accomplices, a gang led by Tieu, a hulking man with a scar across his cheek, sprang into action. Tieu barked orders. Set up near the pass. Stage a motorbike accident. She'll stop to help. We'll grab the money then. His lackey, a wiry man in a tattered shirt, nodded. I'll play the victim. Let's do this. They positioned themselves on a secluded stretch of road. The lackey sprawling beside a toppled bike, groaning loudly as Hung approached. Help me, please, he cried, clutching his leg. Hung stopped, her heart sinking. Oh no, what happened? Did you crash? She knelt beside him, her voice gentle. How did you fall like this? The lackey winced. I swerved to avoid a dog, and my leg got caught under the bike. Hung frowned. You must be in a lot of pain. Let me help you lift it. He groaned. My foot's hurt, I can't move it. She supported his arm. Can you stand? We should get you to a clinic. He shook his head. It hurts too much. Do you have a phone? I need to call my family. Hung nodded, pulling out her phone. Yes, read me the number, I'll call for you. He hesitated. I can't remember. I'm too dizzy from the fall. Hung's concern deepened. Then I'll call an ambulance, you might have a head injury. The lackey stammered. No, wait. Maybe I'll remember soon. Just give me a moment to rest. Hung insisted. We can't wait too long, you're in pain. Try to stand. He grimaced. I can't, it's too painful. She adjusted her grip. Let's get you sitting at least, your leg looks swollen. From the bushes, Tieu whispered. She's distracted. Get ready to strike when I signal. But just then a motorbike roared up the road and Truong, a kind-hearted villager, pulled over, his voice sharp. What's going on here?
Cô Hương. Hương lúc úp. Reliet. Trường.
This boy had an accident. I was helping him. Truong dismounted, his eyes narrowing as he assessed the scene. Are you okay, sir? Can you stand? The lackey, caught off guard, stammered. I'm feeling better now. Truong helped lift the bike, his tone firm. If you're sure you're fine, you should head home. But you look hurt. Let me take you to the hospital. The lackey shook his head. No, I'm okay now. I'll go. He stood, limping slightly, and rode off, leaving Truong suspicious. That was strange, he muttered, turning to Hung. Ko, why are you here? She sighed. I sold my gold to pay for Tieu Nu's eye surgery. I'm on my way to see her. Truong nodded. I'm heading there too. Let's go together. It's not safe here alone. They mounted his bike, the engine humming as they rode toward the Enterprise, unaware of Dai's frustrated growl from the bushes. That meddling kid ruined it. We'll follow them. Wait for another chance near the Enterprise. The sun dipped lower at 4:21 p.m. plus 07 on Tuesday, May 20th, 2025, bathing the Enterprise where Tieu Nu worked in a soft golden light. The area featured a small wooden house surrounded by vegetable patches, where Tieu Nu stood watering the plants, her movements slow as she squinted against the fading daylight. Her voice was soft. I'm tending to the vegetables on Truong. Truong and Mrs. Hung arrived, their faces etched with concern as they called out, Tieu Nu, we're here. She turned, her smile weak but warm. Mother, Anh Tung, come inside, it's too hot out here. They stepped into the house, the air heavy with the day's heat, and Hung removed her jacket. It's swelteringly unbearable today. Tieu Nu nodded. Yes, let's sit. Mother, was the journey tiring? Hung shook her head. Not too much. I'm used to the long rides. But the road was eventful. I stopped to help a young man who'd crashed his bike. Truong added. I found them on the way. I'm glad I did. That pass is dangerous, with many accidents reported. Tieu Nu frowned. That steep pass. I've heard stories of trouble there. Hung sat, her voice heavy. Tieu Nu, I came to talk about your eyes. Tieu Nu's expression darkened. Mother, I don't think they can be fixed. I'm managing with what I can still see. Truong interjected. Don't lose hope, I've been asking around. A friend might help find a cornea donor. Hung reached into her bag, pulling out the stack of cash. I sold my gold 100 million Vind to pay for your surgery. When we find a donor, this will cover it. Tieu Nu's eyes widened. Mother, that was your dowry. You shouldn't have. What about Mai's education? Hung shook her head. Your stepfather and I agreed, this is for you. We'll manage for Mai. I just want your eyes to heal. Truong nodded. I'll help with the fees if needed, Ko. Don't worry. Focus on Tieu Nu's recovery. Tieu Nu's voice trembled. Thank you, but I'll repay you when I'm better. I don't want to be a burden. Hung handed the cash to Tieu Nu. Keep this safe. Use it for the surgery when the time comes. Tieu Nu clutched the money, her voice soft. Did Duong really agree to this? Hung nodded. Yes, he wants you to heal. He said to sell the gold, even though it held memories from my parents. Tieu Nu's eyes glistened. I'm so grateful. I hope I can see clearly again one day, like when I worked these fields. From a distance, Dai Ca and his gang watched, hidden behind a grove of trees, their eyes fixed on the house. She gave the money to the girl, Dai Ca growled. Wait until that guy leaves, we'll move in then. Inside, Truong stood. I need to pick up Dewey soon, it's almost time. Ko, stay here with Tieu Nu for dinner. Hung smiled. I'd like that. I didn't tell your stepfather I'd stay, but I think he'll understand. Truong nodded. He'll agree. He cares for Tieu Nu more now. She's not alone anymore. As they chatted, Hung reflected. That boy I helped, he was odd. He refused the hospital, couldn't recall his family's number. It felt off. Truong's eyes narrowed. That pass is known for thefts, it's isolated. You need to be careful, Ko. Hung shivered. I was so focused on Tieu Nu I didn't think of that. Maybe he was just hurt. Outside, Daisie's patience waned. That guy's leaving, get ready. We'll take the money tonight. The air grew tense, the promise of healing for Tieu Nu overshadowed by the lurking danger. As the day's light faded into a chilling evening.
Reader or widower, I would appreciate talking to her or him. Again, to my surprise, she told me about Phyllis, a spas health director who had lost her husband several months before. I invited Phyllis to have lunch with me the next day, and we quickly established some common ground. We were about 10 years apart in age, but she had also been with her husband for about 50 years. She talked of how they met and what their life had been like. And I could tell by her stories and the warmth of her tone of voice that she, too, had a happy marriage. Then it was my turn. And all I could do was cry as I told the story of my own husband.